Ken asked me to have an honorary position of some importance with the organisation. And one of the reasons is that I have learnt what it is like to have significant hearing loss. I had a slight loss in my left ear from a mastoid as a child, and then I got a virus, an ordinary common cold virus. Most GPs don't know that that can travel to the inner ear and really be very damaging. There's a lot of education to be done there for a start. And then Ken I had known since I was a schoolboy at the Oratory School, and there are one or two other colleagues from there here today. Ken was the sports master and very inspirational, I have to say. He was a rather good fly half, and he encouraged all of us by the sort of enthusiasm that he displays in helping to get decibels high and flying, as it were. I also had the most lovely evening job of going to babysit his young daughter. So I got to know, this was very nice for me because I got out of the school environment and into Ken's house. They always left me something rather nice to eat. But the important thing about today is, having suffered this loss of hearing, I have come to understand only too powerfully how much anything that can lighten the burden, that can remedy one's hearing loss. And I often think, you know, of poor old Beethoven, who didn't have digital hearing aids like I have, and who couldn't hear his music played back. I can hear it now, but it's still very distorted. So my kind of empathy and understanding with people who have some hearing loss or total hearing loss could not be more profound. I think it's true in this world, isn't it, that really you can never quite know what some affliction or even some joy is like until you've experienced some aspect of it yourself. And the first time I went to a concert, having lost this hearing, and found what they referred to in Beethoven's day, or doctors now, describing what he heard as hyperacusis. In other words, where loud sounds are painful. To go into the Albert Hall and hear sounds which I simply couldn't take was one of the most appalling experiences of my life. Also, I think the ability to communicate with other people is such a fundamental part of life. Coming into a room like this can be a nightmare for many people. Luckily, we've got lots of people to help. But my support for Decibels and my delight in seeing you all here to help us support it knows no bounds. And I will certainly do all I can to help the organisation, because I believe so profoundly that the joys that can be denied those with hearing loss, that are to be found in example, and especially in music, are such a vital part of being alive and being human. How wonderful it's going to be to hear people performing who have overcome this difficulty, transcended it, and we'll see what the music means to them as well as to us. So without any further ado, I'll hand over to Ken Carter to talk about the work of Decibels. And congratulations, Ken, for getting this all together. I'm delightful to have been able to host it and play a small part in all of this.
I only wish I could do like Michael and not have these sort of notes in front of me. I notice he can just speak off the top of his head, but I have got at the top here, remember dementia. So I will either include or leave out things, but thank you, Michael, for your welcoming address to everyone here. I suppose I should call him Lord Michael Berkeley, or should it be Berkeley? When I was a teacher at the Oratory School, when Michael was there, what, 55 years ago, he's mentioned this already, we were obliged to call the pupils by their surname. and not their first name. So it is lovely to be able to call Michael or Lord Michael Berkeley. There is another Lord Berkeley, though, in the House of Lords, and we did have a little bit of a mess up, and he nearly had to pay for everything that we
So that's better, Ken, than what my fellow pupils called me, which was very much, not a curly hair, but they called me Bog Brush Berkeley.
I didn't know that. I've got to be very careful about time, because Michael said you mustn't ramble on, because apparently they're having cucumber sandwiches and tea here, I think at 3 or 3:30, so I better get on with it. As the founder of Decibels 10 years ago, I wanted this sort of charitable educational enterprise to be more than just the measurement of sound. And I wanted it to be about music, which Michael knows all about, and our other players here today do know as well. And I wanted it to be about the arts, about film, about television, about drama performance, but also the use of innovative technologies. And for deaf and disabled people, but really for everyone. So I think, aren't we all challenged, in fact, you know, when it comes to speech, language, communication? I mean, all of us have to, you know, think through what we're going to say and how we say it, and also if we're going to use interpreters. And also, I'd just like to pay my respects to the interpreters who will be helping us throughout this. By the way, how many decibels am I using? I've got to be careful with this microphone. You probably all know, but I'm speaking at roughly how many decibels? Rosie?
60.
60. Who was that? Who said that? Oh, very good. Very good at the top of the class. If I was whispering, hello, how are you today? 30 decibels. And what about shouting? Now, we're not allowed to shout here. Black Rod has said that we have to be as quiet as we can, but that's, anyone know? Shouting? How many decibels?
90.
90. Well done. Why I'm bringing this up is, what about the threshold of pain? I can remember teaching when Concord used to go across, and that was 120 decibels. Now I put here 125 decibels, and the reason why I've done it is I'm looking at this lady through here, and she's called Ruth Montgomery, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, but her hearing loss is 125. That's 125 decibels, but with an analog hearing aid, not a digital hearing aid.